I came to Adida in 1973 at the age of 21. I first saw his picture. I was working at a bookstore in Boston called Dow Books. I was in the stockroom in the back. It was a flyer for the Knee of Listening, his autobiography. Adida had swept hair, he was wearing sunglasses, and he didn't have a shirt on. And I grew up in Los Angeles. He was in Hollywood, to be exact, at that time. And my first reaction to seeing him was, those people in LA, they will believe anybody's a guru. Look at this guy. He was too young, too hip. I was looking for a guru, somebody who knew. But I expected him to be a Tibetan of considerable age or an Indian. So I didn't buy that book. But a friend of mine in the store did. And when it came in and I read The Knee of Listening, it blew my mind. It was so direct. He cut to the root of things. And the next book was The Method of Siddhas, or now called My Bright Word. And in there's a talk called Money, Food, and Sex. And when I read that, I knew I was had. Here was somebody who knew me exactly, and he could deal with me. And within a matter of weeks, I was in LA and had become his student. And when I became his devotee, I fell in love. There's a favorite essay of Adida's. It goes like this. I am the person of love who has spontaneously taken on human form for the sake of this world of beings. I am here to be love and to do the work of love. Therefore, give me your attention and feel my regard. Commune with the person of love in every moment. By this means, always feel love, give love, receive love, and be love. This is the first discipline, the origin of the way. So it's that love that has held me to him for the 36 years, and I've been his devotee up till now, and I know will always hold me to him. It's because of that love that my life has been his. And just before I walked down the beach, and I remembered all the times when we gathered with Adida, and we'd leave and walk down the beach, and I would be amazed at the ecstasy. So amazed that this being was alive and we were in his company. Who was I? Just an ordinary person. All of us. Yet we were graced to be in a relationship with this being, never deserved, never earned, but somehow given to us. Now, always. Yes, in the late 1980s, Adida asked me to write a book on the guru-devotee relationship for Westerners and for the increasingly westernized worldwide culture. Because we're all so suspicious in the West of submitting to anything outside of ourselves. Now, Adida really, for the first time, has described what that guru-devotee relationship entails. And I attempted to describe in that book, for the modern times, what the traditional and time-honored guru-devotee relationship is all about. We named that book Love of the God-Man. And that love goes both ways. It was our love for him, but also his love for us. The relationship is the serene blessing in the world. But to tell you about it, there was one day when I gave a presentation in Huge Helper at the Mountain of Attention, and some members of Adida's household went back and told him about that presentation. It's about a traditional realizer. And the next day I got some notes, which went like this. Beloved said, James, the teaching is not in books. The teaching is on your backside, placed there by my foot on the day of your initiation. And that's really the truth of it between me and beloved Adida. Everything I might really know or understand came from him. And at heart, really, I'm a mad bhakta, a Gopal at his feet, who can't stop the tears rolling down my eyes when I see a slideshow like that, like so many of us are. And how did all of Adidada's devotees fall madly in love with him? By being loved by him first. As he's told us, mine is the first submission, mine is the first sacrifice. Once late in 1983, when I had first come here, it was a week after the island had been purchased. We were in a gathering over in Beloved's bedroom right across the veranda here in Ahamda, Azmistan. It was late in the evening. The gathering had been going on for some time. And I was sitting kind of in the back of the room, but I couldn't have been more than 15 feet away from Beloved, who was on his bed. And then the room, Beloved was radiant. He was round. He was full. And the whole room was irradiated by this iridescent, bright light of grace. It was so bright. And just in that glow, and then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, Beloved started to mention my name and talk about me. And he told me, I'd come from California, he told me how much he loved me. And he told me that he spoke about me every day. And he turned to the members of his household who were around him besides the bed, and he said, don't I talk about James every day? And they all nodded, yes, yes. And as he was speaking, Beloved Bhagavan was beaming, and he was communicating an intimacy really beyond words. And I began to weep in love, and I told him that I understood what he was saying, and that I loved him too, and I understood how much he loved me, and that I felt it every day, how much he felt that, but he wouldn't stop. And over again, he wanted to make sure that I understood how much he loved me. It went on for a long time. He said he spoke about me every day, he remembered me every day. I was at a loss to respond to that love. And I just said, yes, I understand. Yes, I love you too. Now, in that moment, I simply felt his love. And I was broken open by that grace, that penetration. And I understood really that it didn't mean that he spoke about me out loud every day. But I understood what he was trying to tell me was, and I really never knew what he did, to tell you the truth. But I understood what he was trying to communicate to me was the love and the remembrance that he had and the work he did with all of us, with all of his devotees. He loved me beyond all bounds. He loved me beyond anything I could know or understand. And he loves all of us the same way. A couple of weeks later, when he was at that Love of the God-Man celebration at the Mount of Attention, he sent out a message to tell all of his devotees, he said, I may not know your names, but I know your hearts. And that divine love really is the basis of all of our spiritual practice. He said eventually, some may begin with understanding, but eventually it becomes that love for the Guru. What will you do if you love me? And when we recognize him, when we can feel him that way, what possibly could we not do? What could we not accomplish with that love, that all-accomplishing power, that incredible gift? Now, because I had a background in the spiritual traditions, Adida directed me first to run the Don Horse bookstore in San Francisco. And then I became his librarian. He used to say I was his bookman. He said he kept me a book's distance away, he said. And I asked him all the very, very fascinated questions about all the spiritual traditions, and he schooled me beyond what he called my Indian fetishism. I think every part of my body has a blow from his stick about that. My own recognition of him grew year by year, and he instructed me to look at the books in the library and to study his likenesses and to see if I could find anybody like him. And the more I studied all the great realizers, the more I found that he was utterly unique, that nobody taught like he taught, and that as simply as it rolled off his tongue or it rolled into an essay, that it was the most profound teaching that had ever been given. As he once said about enlightenment, he was never less than I expected, but always more than I ever could have hoped for. Now, knowing the time we lived in, Adida always considered it an important part of his work to try to make sense, help us make sense out of all the doctrines of this world, all the secular doctrines, all the spiritual doctrines, all the religious doctrines, because we're confronted with so much. And how do you make sense out of that confusing array of things that we're confronted with. Where's the truth in the midst of all of that? What shines out? And so he named that one single tradition the Great Tradition. And he proceeded to create this extraordinary masterwork called the Basket of Tolerance, with Jonathan and I had the pleasure and many others of working with and helping to create by simply providing the books, in which he took thousands of books, DVDs, and CDs and arranged them according to the esoteric anatomy and the 7 stages that as he teaches them of the body, mind, and spiritual life, such that it provides a way to understand where everything fits in the whole, how it all comes together. And he told us so many times, and through all of his essays in that Basket of Tolerance, what is the usefulness of every tradition, and then where its limits are. Always so that we would be able to get beyond our confusion and find our way in the midst of it all. And then he also shows us how his was the completing or 7-stage stroke to bring a fullness to it all. I was also asked, because of my background and work with Adida, to say a little bit about his own lineage. And by virtue of his own realization, Adida became uniquely the master of his own lineage. And I heard him many times speak about Swami Rudrananda, who taught him about the descending yoga. And as he would speak of Rudy, Rudy taught him self-discipline. Adida was always grateful for him. And many times in the gathering, I heard Adida speak about Rudy, and tears would roll down his cheeks. And he would talk about my Rudy. Then there was Swami Muktananda, who taught Adida about the ascending yoga of the body-mind. And I was graced once to be an intermediary between Adida and Swami Muktananda. And in 1979, in South Fallsburg at his ashram in upstate New York, Adida had me arrange a meeting so it was just me and Swami Muktananda and his translator in conversation. And there was a letter from Adida that I read to Swami Muktananda. And Adida wanted me to do this so I could hear, without anybody else there, how Swami Muktananda really felt about it. Over and over again in Swami Muktananda's voice, I heard his love for Adida in all of his reactions, so deeply that amidst everything else, I could never forget it. Just as I have witnessed Adida speaking about Swami Muktananda with that same love in his voice for years. Swami Nityananda, I can just say it in a word, Adida sometimes referred to Swami Nityananda as beloved Nityananda, just like we refer to Adida as beloved Adida. He would refer to Swami Nityananda that way. I also had the opportunity to be the intermediary with many of the luminaries. Adida sent me to meet people like the 16th Karmapa, the 17th Karmapa, Chandrasekhar, the Shankaracharya of Kanchi, Friar Bede Griffith, Young Kwang, the Mad Monk, and show Adida's pictures to these people and watch their faces get bright. The Karmapa was dancing when we showed him a 16 by 20 picture of Adida, and he had all of his monks see that same picture, and they started laughing too. And when we came back to tell Adida about the meeting, he just said, I know. He was already there. Okay, I think I've gone to my time limit, so let me say, in gratitude for a debt of love and blessing which I can never repay, I surrender before Adida Samraj.